The bus shook as it rolled over another stretch of cracked highway, its engines humming a tired, rhythmic growl that matched the heaviness in my chest. I had traveled across the country before, but never with this much nervous weight sitting on my shoulders. This wasn't a trip for sightseeing, nor business, nor leisure. It was a journey I'd dreamed of for too many years and feared in equal measure. I was going to see my daughter, Elena. Her name alone stirred 1,000 memories, her tiny hand gripping mine the first time she tried to ride a bike, her barefoot dances on the kitchen tiles, the streaks of paint she'd leave on my coveralls every time she begged to help fix things in my garage. If I closed my eyes, I could still hear her laughing clear and bright when she was small and life had not taught her how to be ashamed. The bus rolled on, a ribbon of asphalt dragging me closer to a future I couldn't quite imagine. I shifted in my seat, pulling my old denim jacket tighter. It smelled faintly of engine oil and pine from the workshop back home. I wondered if Elena would wrinkle her nose at it. She had grown so different, so distant, since she married Trevor Dane, the man with expensive suits, polished shoes, and a smile that always felt rehearsed. We had barely spoken in the last year, not since she'd moved to Asterisk, that Asterisk side of the country. Into the affluent suburban neighborhood, Trevor insisted, was the only decent place for people of status. I remember the silence, the way it stretched longer and longer, until my phone felt like a relic she had forgotten existed. So, when she called last week, her voice carefully calm, controlled, I nearly dropped the wrench I was holding. "Dad, I bought a new house. I want you to see it." My heart had soared like a child's balloon escaping its tether. I had agreed without hesitation, even though part of me sensed something strange in her voice. Not joy, not excitement, more like obligation, or politeness, or fear. Still, I convinced myself it didn't matter. She asked me to come. That alone was enough to keep my hope alive, fragile as it was. The bus finally hissed to a stop at the station. My legs were stiff as I stepped out into the crisp morning air. The town was beautiful, too beautiful. Neatly trimmed trees lined the roads, and every storefront looked like it belonged in a lifestyle magazine. Even the air felt carefully curated. I felt painfully out of place. I took a taxi to the address Elena had texted. When we turned into her neighborhood, I felt my breath catch. This wasn't just wealth, it was asterisk status. Asterisk, the kind of neighborhood where people ironed their napkins and polished their mailboxes. Houses stood like marble sculptures, grand, flawless, identical in their perfection. Elena's home was the largest, its stone facade gleaming in the sun, the porch decorated with seasonal wreaths and elegant lanterns. It looked like a magazine cover, a life chosen, a life constructed, but not a life I recognized. Before I reached the door, it opened, and she stood there. My daughter, she looked beautiful. She always did, but different in a way that made my heart twist. Her hair was styled in soft waves, her makeup flawless, her clothes expensive and understated. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. There was tension in her jaw, a stiffness in her shoulders. "Dad," she said, stepping outside quickly, glancing toward the neighbors' houses, "you made it." I wanted to hug her tightly, the way fathers do when they haven't seen their children in too long. Instead, she embraced me briefly, lightly, like she was afraid of wrinkling her blouse. "You looks good," I said awkwardly. She nodded, not really looking at me. "Let's go inside." Her voice trembled not from emotion, but from caution. Inside, the house was stunning. Marble countertops, golden fixtures, spotless surfaces. It was a home meant for presentation, not comfort. I set my duffel bag down quietly, afraid to scuff something. She closed the door and turned to me sharply, almost urgently. "Dad, before anything else, we need to talk." My chest tightened. "What's wrong?" She swallowed, eyes darting toward the front windows. "If we run into any neighbors, please don't tell them you're my father." I froze. I'm sorry. I said softly, sure I heard wrong. She exhaled, a breath filled with embarrassment and something like shame. It's just people here are very particular. They ask a lot of questions, they make assumptions. I need them to see me in a certain way. My stomach dropped like a stone. In what way? I asked. She hesitated, looked at the floor, then whispered, not the daughter of a mechanic. It felt like she'd wrapped her fingers around my ribs and squeezed until something cracked. The air left my lungs. My vision blurred for a second. Not the daughter of a mechanic. Not asterisk my asterisk daughter. Who do you want me to be, then? I asked, my voice rough. She stepped back, wringing her hands. Maybe a handyman, or someone helping around the house while Trevor's away, or just not my father. My heart didn't break cleanly. It tore slowly, painfully, like fabric under too much strain. Elena, I whispered, I crossed the country to see you. I know, she said, her voice cracking just a little. And I'm glad you're here, I am, but this is important. My reputation, my place in this community, they're watching everything. I stared at her, my daughter, my once little girl, and felt an ache so deep I couldn't speak for a moment. She didn't look like Elena anymore, not the Elena I raised, not the Elena I loved more than my own breath. She looked like someone pretending to be, who she believed the world wanted her to be. After a long, hollow silence, I nodded. If that's what you want, thank you, she said with relief, completely missing the devastation in my eyes. And that was the moment standing in her beautiful, lonely house, when I realized something with terrifying clarity. My daughter had built a life so fragile, so falsely polished, that she couldn't allow even her own father to be seen. But what she didn't know was something I had kept quiet for years. Something she would discover soon enough, something that would unravel every lie she was living under. And everything would begin with me. The first morning in Elena's new home felt quieter than any morning should. The silence wasn't peaceful, no. It was sharp, unnatural, the kind that settles over places where truths are buried beneath manicured lawns and polished smiles. I sat at the marble kitchen island, nursing a cup of coffee that tasted too bitter, glancing occasionally at the spotless floors that didn't feel like they belonged in a home. Homes were meant to be lived in, marked by scuffs, dust, laughter echoing in hallways. This place felt staged. Elena moved around me with polite stiffness, wearing a soft gray dress, as if she were preparing for a photo shoot, rather than a simple day at home. She never used to dress like that on weekends. She never used to dress for anyone but herself. I have errands, she said, picking up her purse. Grocery shopping mostly. I nodded. Anything you want me to do while you're out. She hesitated just for a second, then forced a smile. Maybe tidy the guest room in case someone drops by. She said it lightly, but there was meaning behind each word. Asterisk tidy yourself, Dad. Don't look out of place. Asterisk I felt it like a bruise forming under the skin. When she left, I stepped outside, needing air free of perfume and expectation. The neighborhood was immaculate, lawns trimmed with military precision, houses decorated like they were competing for the front page of a home magazine. Even the breeze felt filtered. As I walked down the street, a woman watering roses looked up at me. "Oh, you must be the handyman," she said, smiling brightly. My jaw tightened, actually. Before I could finish, Elena's voice echoed in my head. Asterisk, please don't tell the neighbors you're my father. Asterisk, I swallowed the words like poison. I'm visiting for a bit, I said instead. Wonderful, she chirped. Elena is lovely, so poised, such a perfect addition to our neighborhood. Perfect. Poised, presented, not one word describing who she actually was. I forced a polite smile and continued walking. At the far end of the street, I spotted an elderly woman struggling with her porch railing. A screw had come loose, and the wood wobbled dangerously under her grip. "Ma'am," I called gently, "would you like a hand with that?" She squinted at me. "Only if you know what you're doing." I chuckled. I've been a mechanic longer than most people have been alive. I know my way around tools. Her name was asterisk asterisk Mrs. Calloway asterisk asterisk, and she had a sharp glance that could read a man better than any book. I tightened the screws, added a bracket, and secured the railing fully in less than 15 minutes. When I finished, she nodded, impressed. "You're Alina's father, aren't you?" she asked casually. I froze. She said it like she already knew the answer. "Did she tell you that?" I asked carefully. Mrs. Calloway let out a short laugh, the kind that came from decades of knowing too much. "That girl, she barely says anything to anyone, but I recognize family when I see it. You walk the same way she used to before she started pretending not to." Her words struck deeper than she realized. "I think she's embarrassed of me," I admitted quietly. Mrs. Calloway sighed, leaning back in her chair. "No, son, she's embarrassed of herself." I looked at her sharply. She continued, voice lowering. "People around here reinvent themselves. They build new identities as easily as they repaint their shutters. But reinvention is a fragile thing, especially when done for the wrong reasons." She paused, watching a pair of joggers pass by. "Your daughter, she arrived here trying too hard, hosting expensive dinners, talking like she came from old money circles, acting as if she never had dirt under her fingernails. And that husband of hers," her face twisted with something close to disgust. "What about him?" I asked Mrs. Calloway leaned forward, whispering. "He's the one pushing her, telling her who to be, correcting her, controlling her. A man like that doesn't want a wife, he wants a polished trophy." Anger simmered low and hot in my chest. She continued, "Some neighbors say he's in financial trouble. Others say he's trying to climb the social ladder using Alina's looks and charm. There are rumors he's lied about his background, too." I stiffened. Alina had never told me anything about this. Why would she hide all that from me? I whispered. Mrs. Calloway gave me a soft, sympathetic look. "Because when a person is being shaped by someone else's hands, they forget who they used to be. They forget where they came from. And worst of all, they forget the people who truly love them." Her words hit me like a hammer. Was that what had happened to my daughter? Had she been molded into something unrecognizable? Someone who believed her real father wasn't good enough. Before I could respond, a sleek black car rolled by. Trevor's car. He didn't slow, didn't wave, didn't even look my way. But I saw his eyes glance at the tightened screws in Mrs. Calloway's railing and then at me, with irritation that told me all I needed to know. When I returned home, Alina was back, arranging flowers on the counter like she was preparing for royalty. "Oh, Dad," she said, voice too bright, "I heard you were outside earlier. Please be careful not to stand out too much. Stand out." In a neighborhood full of people pretending to be something they weren't. I stared at her for a long moment, absorbing the truth settling behind her eyes. Fear, pressure, exhaustion. And something else, something darker. She wasn't just hiding me because she was ashamed. She was hiding me because someone else wanted her to. I said nothing, not yet, because the more I watched, the more I realized there were secrets buried beneath the polished sidewalks of this place. And my daughter was trapped in the middle of them. The third night in Alina's house was colder than the others, not because of the weather, but because of what I had begun to see with my own eyes. The shadows in her home were no longer just shadows. They were warnings, signs of a life lived under the weight of someone else's expectations. The more time I spent here, the more I realized that my daughter was not simply ashamed of me. No, she was afraid. And the fear wasn't of me or of the neighbors. It was of asterisk asterisk him asterisk asterisk, Trevor, the man who had taken my little girl and wrapped her in silk threads until she couldn't breathe without his permission. That evening, Alina cooked a dinner that was far too elaborate to be casual. Seared salmon, herb-roasted vegetables, a bottle of wine she said she bought for special appearances, not occasions. Asterisk appearances. Asterisk her language was becoming a cage she didn't notice tightening. When we sat down to eat, she barely touched her food. "You okay?" I asked. She flinched. "Just tired." "You've been tired since I got here." She gave me a brittle smile. "Life is busy, organized, you know how it is." No, I didn't. She had turned her life into a staged play. And every performance drained her. Halfway through the meal, the front door slammed. Heavy footsteps echoed like thunder. Trevor entered the dining room without looking at either of us. "Where's dinner?" he barked. Elena jumped up so quickly her chair screeched against the floor. I have it right here." He glanced at her plate. "You're eating carbs. Didn't we talk about that?" My fork froze midway to my mouth. I watched him, my jaw tightening. She swallowed hard. "I'll stop." He kissed her forehead mechanically, like someone stamping approval on a document. Then he walked into the living room, turning on the large TV without a word to me. Elena sat down again, avoiding my eyes, her hands trembling. Something inside me snapped quietly, like a wire pulled too tight. This wasn't a marriage. It was a dictatorship with polished smiles. After dinner, Elena excused herself to finish paperwork in her office. I lingered, pretending to wash dishes, but really listening. Voices carried through vents in a house, this big secrets drifting through ducts. I heard Trevor's voice first, sharp and venomous. "You embarrass me again today. The Hendersons were asking why your Handeman had lunch on our porch." My heart dropped. Handeman, not father, not even family. "Trevor, he's just visiting," Elena tried. "Your father," he spat, "is a burden, a nobody, and every time he's seen outside, your image suffers." My grip on the dish tightened until my knuckles turned white. Elena whispered, "He raised me, and does that buy him a place in our life? He's an old mechanic with no future and no class." Mechanic, old, no class. Insults thrown casually about the man who worked double shifts to pay for Elena's textbooks, who walked her to school every day until he was sure she was safe, who skipped meals so she never had to. He had no idea what kind of man I was, but he would. Their voices faded. I finished cleaning, wiping the same countertop 3 times until my anger cooled into something sharper, something more dangerous. Later that night, unable to sleep, I walked upstairs and past Trevor's office. His door was ajar. Inside, his voice hissed through the darkness. On a phone call he clearly didn't want overheard. "No, I told you, I'm getting the funds. I don't care how. She won't know. She trusts me too much." A pause, a frustrated sigh. "Yes, I know the deal is falling apart. I'm working on a way in. Someone owns the damn land we need, but they won't sell. Once I get Elena to sign the paperwork, we can leverage her credit." My blood ran cold. Trevor wasn't just controlling Elena. He was using her. He was planning to drag her into debt, or worse. I stepped back before he saw me, heart pounding with rage so deep it tasted metallic on my tongue. I returned to the guest room and sat on the bed, staring at my calloused hands, the same hands that built Elena's childhood, one scraped knuckle at a time. How did it come to this? I whispered into the dark. My daughter thought she needed to hide me. Trevor thought he could control her forever. Neither of them knew the whole truth about me. I wasn't just a mechanic, not by a long shot. Over the years I worked, I made quiet investments, small properties, on the outskirts of cities and developing towns. I'd bought land cheap, fixed it myself, rented parts out, sold some, kept others. And one of those properties, one I still owned, was tied directly to the development Trevor was trying to push through. The damn land he needed. It was mine. I smiled for the first time in days. A slow, cold smile, not because I wanted revenge. Not because I wanted to hurt him, but because I finally saw a way to free Elena from the cage he built. But first, I needed to understand how deep Trevor's manipulation went. I needed evidence, timing, patience. I needed a plan, so I stayed quiet, helping around the house, observing, listening. Elena thought I was just a visitor. Trevor thought I was a nuisance. Neither of them knew I was preparing to dismantle everything built on lies. Not with anger, not with violence, but with truth and one perfectly placed signature withheld. My daughter didn't know yet, but I was about to change the course of her entire life. She asked me not to tell the neighbors I was her father. Fine, but very soon the world would know exactly who I was, and who she truly was, beneath the fear, beneath the pressure, beneath the shame that never belonged to her. A father's love can move mountains, but a father's resolve can crush them. The morning of the neighborhood block party dawned with a strange kind of stillness, like the air itself held its breath, waiting for something to break. Elena had been pacing the kitchen since sunrise, adjusting her blouse, smoothing her hair, rearranging a fruit platter she didn't even like. Every movement carried the same quiet panic I'd seen building over the last few days. "Dad, maybe it's better if you stay inside today," she said gently. Too gently, the kind of gentleness used when handling something fragile or unwanted. "I'd like to get some fresh air," I replied. She hesitated, then her mask slipped for just a moment. Fear flickered across her eyes. "It's just," Trevor said, "well, the neighbors will have questions, and I don't want them judging us. Judging asterisk asterisk us asterisk asterisk, or judging asterisk asterisk you asterisk asterisk. Elena, I didn't ask. I didn't have to. The truth was already painfully clear." She was living a life built like a house of cards, every false impression stacked carefully, balancing on the smallest lie. My presence was the wind that could send it all tumbling. But today, something else was going to fall. And it wouldn't be my daughter. The street filled quickly with neighbors carrying casserole dishes, pitchers of lemonade, and folding chairs. Children ran between front yards. Laughter floated through the air like a cheap perfume meant to cover the smell of something rotten. I stepped out onto the porch, ignoring the sharp inhale I heard from Elena behind me. "Dad, please," she whispered. But this time I didn't retreat. I walked down the steps and into the gathering crowd. I nodded at a couple arranging a table. "Morning, oh, hello," the woman chirped. "You're Elena's handyman, right?" Before I could answer, Elena rushed forward, cheeks flushed, voice tight. "Yes, he's just no," I said calmly. Her voice died in her throat. I faced the couple. "I'm Elena's father." A hush rippled across the group, subtle but unmistakable. Heads turned, conversations paused. Elena's breathing hitched behind me, and for the first time in years I lifted my chin, not with arrogance but with pride. I wasn't ashamed of who I was, and I wouldn't let my daughter be ashamed of her beginnings. Something inside her cracked. I could feel it, but the day wasn't about humiliation. It was about truth. Neighbors approached me one by one, not with judgment, not with disdain, but with warm curiosity, kindness, openness. "So you're the one who fixed Mrs. Calloway's railing." Elena always talked about her dad being hardworking. She told us stories about your shop, and each comment hit Elena like a revelation. She had talked about me. Just never in the spaces she feared the most. Trevor arrived half an hour later, stepping out of his sleek car like a king arriving late to his coronation. But when he saw me speaking comfortably with half the neighborhood, his face hardened. He marched toward me, voice low and venomous. "What the hell do you think you're doing? Talking?" I said, being myself. "We had an agreement," he hissed. "You stay out of sight." "Your agreement," I corrected, "not mine." His jaw twitched. "You're embarrassing Elena." But Elena was behind him, now pale as a ghost, realizing the situation was spiraling beyond her control. I turned fully toward Trevor, lowering my voice. "You've been lying to her," I said, "about money, about the deal, about everything." Trevor's face drained of color. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Elena," I said gently, "go get the papers from his office." The ones he had hidden in the drawer with the black folder. Her eyes widened. "How do you know about those?" Trevor lunged toward me. "Don't you dare, Elena," I barked, not in anger but in urgency. "Go." Something inside her snapped free. She bolted toward the house. Trevor swore under his breath and ran after her, but I grabbed his arm. "Let her read," I said. He shoved me, but I didn't move. Years of lifting engines had made my body harder than he expected. Within minutes, Elena returned papers, trembling in her hands, face streaked with tears of disbelief and betrayal. "These are loan documents," she whispered, voice breaking. You were going to use my signature, my credit. You told me the business was fine." Trevor stammered. "Elena, listen. I can explain. And the land you needed," I said quietly. He froze. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the property deeds. Thick paper, heavy, the weight of years and planning and quiet resilience. I held them up. "This," I said, "is the land you've been trying to buy." Trevor's eyes widened with raw panic. You own it. Yes," I replied, "and I won't sell it to you." The crowd around us murmured, stunned. Trevor's face flushed red, veins bulging in his neck. You've ruined everything." "No," I said softly. "I've stopped you from ruining her." Elena's knees buckled. She sank onto the grass, sobbing in her hands, not just from betrayal, but from the realization of how deeply she'd been manipulated. I stepped toward her, kneeling beside her. "Sweetheart." I whispered, "Look at me." She lifted her face, red, streaked, broken. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I didn't see what he was doing. I didn't see what I became. I treated you like you were nothing." I gathered her gently into my arms. For a moment she melted into me like the little girl who used to run crying after falling off her bike. "You're my daughter," I murmured. "There's nothing you can do that I won't forgive." Her tears soaked into my jacket. "I thought I had to be someone else, someone perfect. You only ever had to be yourself," I said. Behind us, Trevor tried to protest, tried to spin lies, but the neighbors were listening, watching, judging him the way he feared most. His mask had finally cracked. Within an hour, he was gone, leaving screeching tires and a shattered image behind him. That evening, after the party ended and the sun dipped below the horizon, Elena and I sat on her porch. The air was cooler now, gentler. She leaned her head on my shoulder, something she hadn't done since she was a teenager. "I don't deserve your kindness," she whispered. "You don't have to deserve a father's love," I replied. "It's not something you earn. It's something you always have." The porch light flickered softly above us. She took my hand, my calloused, oil-stained hand, and held it tightly. "Will you stay for a while?" she asked. "I don't want to pretend anymore. I want my real life back. I want *U* in it." I smiled, feeling something heal inside me. "I'm not going anywhere." For the first time since arriving, I felt at home, not because of the house, but because my daughter, my real daughter, had finally come back to me. And the sweetest revenge of all was not Trevor's downfall. It was watching Elena reclaim her truth, her freedom, and the love she once believed wasn't enough. But it always was.